Hello and welcome. In this podcast, we're going to talk about labels and nesting those labels. So if you saw our earlier podcast on labels, you know how to create a label. We simply come up here and go create labels. Today what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and create a large label and have a subgroup of labels located within inside that large group. So I have a folder over here called Graduate Program. Well, the first thing I want to do, because I've received some more email from another college, and so now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and change this label, and I'm going to call this Graduate Programs. So I'm just going to click on Edit. So I'm going to call this Graduate Programs. Save that. I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to relabel them. So instead of them being called Graduate Programs, I'm now going to call this University of Scranton. So I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to nest all of these under the graduate programs. So now when I go to graduate programs, I'll see these, and I'm going to go back to my inbox. I'm going to go ahead and label this one just graduate program. So we're going to go back to our inbox. It's removed from the unread. When I go over to this label called graduate programs, all of my emails show up. But now if I want to look for just my ones called University of Scranton, which are not inside because it's not a folder, but nested inside that larger group, I can go ahead here, and there we are. Oh no, since we last talked, I realized that in my labels, I had a problem. I noticed that I had graduate programs, which is the large label. Inside that label, I also had University of Scranton. So when I looked up emails from them, they would be inside that. They would be labeled inside the larger group called graduate programs. However, I realized I have another one called U of Scranton. Well, what I need to do is I need to come down here to manage my labels. And here, I can create a new label, but I'm looking to delete this one here. So I can come over here to remove. And my label is no longer here. Now, I got to this window or this page by going over to Graduate Programs, clicking on the drop-down arrow, and clicking on the Edit button. However, you can get to the same exact place if you click on the Gear Settings, go to Settings, and it usually defaults, opens to the General. Right next to that is the Labels, and you can see I can scroll down here, and here are the labels that I have so far. Graduate Programs, and you can see how it's kind of indented or tabbed over where it says the University of Scranton. So that's how we know that that's a sub-label of the larger label called Graduate Programs. And here, if we want to get fancy, we can kind of change them, we can edit them. If you look to my personal finance, I made that one green. This one's just kind of a neutral color. So I'm going to change that. So I'm going to go ahead, click on that drop down, and I want to change this to more of a bluish color. So I'm going to label either everything called Graduate Programs or all graduate program labels and its sublabels. For right now, I'm going to keep it just Graduate Programs as labeled. So I'll set the color, and you can see how that changed it to a blue. So hopefully this makes you a little bit more familiar with how to use labels in Google Mail.